All right, here we are for day 6 of the trip, and I had my first interview today with a restaurant owner, and it was fantastic. So let me tell you about the day first. Um, I was just walked down to the site, and the restaurant owner was it was a incredibly busy time. So I told her, let me come back in an hour and a half. So I went, had a coffee, walked around a marketplace, and I recall when I was an undergraduate that there was a person from the Balkans, and we were talking about Karl Polanyi in class, and he said we were talking about the idea of this embedded market, and for him in where he was from, he always remembered that a marketplace was named after an important saint in the Orthodox Church. So I was walking around and I was like, let's see if we can find a saint or a flag or something resembling national identity. So I walked, and there was this one little, it was like an alcove in the marketplace, and I went down in, and there I saw some iconography, which was pretty nice. Some beautiful photos of saints, and Saint Mary, Jesus Christ, and so on. And that was wonderful, but it was in an alcove. It wasn't in the main market. What was in the main market was a bunch of graffiti. Like I talked about this graffiti before, it's like everywhere, anywhere I go. And yesterday I went into a bookstore, used bookstore, and I asked the gentleman working there, what is up with all the graffiti? I finally asked, what's up with all the graffiti? And he said to me, it's everywhere. There's nothing we can do about it. And there's no message. But there is a message, because for some reason it's all in English. And so I saw one today, no excuse for animal abuse. And I saw another one, no borders, no nations. So this is like anarchy, right? The idea of there not being a nation. That's tied into the other graffiti that we saw about the migrant crisis. So, I was saying, okay, there has to be something here. I mean, it's very prevalent. So, I came back to the restaurant, and I sat down with the owner for about an hour. We talked about the project. Had some questions for her. And the questions are prepared, right? They're prepared. They've been prepared for 2 months, 3 months. I've had these questions. I've thought about them. I've changed them. It was very part of the project that I worked really hard is to draft these questions in yes, no fashion, or yes, no, maybe fashion, or extremely agree, agree, disagree, extremely disagree, stuff, like that. And we didn't talk about any of the we did cover some questions, but only after I brought her back in, and with incredible difficulty. And then I realized something. Don't do that. Don't do that. Work with what she's giving you. Work with what she's giving you. So I began to think, okay, how does everything well, she was talking about the difficulty of getting the ingredients due to inflation, or people who want higher profits, so they destroy the food, the ingredients. She talks about shortcuts, people taking shortcuts, not doing things fresh. And she said, the pressure to get cheap, lower prices is driving people to take these shortcuts. And these shortcuts create the dish, which is supposed to be flavorful, so on. It doesn't have that same taste. So she said it's the memory. People are going to lose the memory of what that dish is supposed to be like. And I thought, this is it. This is it. It's globalization, the pressure to remain profitable is eradicating the culture, the national identity. And that goes back to like the 90s, the disciplinary hand of empire, what Hart and Negri wrote about empire. Hey, this is empire. I'm experiencing empire before my eyes. We're seeing that the construct of globalization is leading to a loss of culture and creating a global one, like a global culture, right? So we're seeing national identity being eroded away and being replaced by something else. And all of these anarchy symbols that I'm seeing is a rejection of globalization. It's a rejection. It's saying that we don't really have any part in the status quo. But instead of looking at it from a cultural perspective, they don't want it. They want to create something new, something that they think is beautiful and right and beneficial for the entire world. So this is the meat of what happened today. And it finally, I made the connection finally with the graffiti, because I mean, I've been to cities. I've been to New York. I've been to Paris. I've been to cities in in the Middle East. I've been to cities in Germany, Frankfurt. I've been to border towns. Like, yeah, there's graffiti there, but like, sometimes it's hidden. It's hidden. You can't really see it. But this is like blatantly in your face. And these anarchist messages are very prevalent. So I think what I'm thinking is that this is not a dialectical type situation. It's like a trialectical. So you have the status quo in the middle, right? Then you have traditionalists, and then you have anarchists. The traditionalists want to keep things the same. The anarchists want something completely new. And the status quo, the people in power, the people like the European Union, the people who are creating this situation, there's three forces, right, at play. So from this conversation, this is what I am seeing. I don't know, it's still early in the project, still early times. We didn't really talk about Turkey. I was expecting Turkey. We didn't talk about Northern Macedonia. We did talk about the commodification of Greek culture and how it's more like a commodity, right? She said it in different words, but that's what she's saying, right? And so, lots to think about. It was a really quite insightful interview. And, this is only the first interview that I've happened to have. I'm hoping for at least two more. What I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to draft up the interview in a spreadsheet, right? Kind of record all the core points. And then after go out for lunch and at a restaurant that I will ask the waiter to talk to the owner or the chef or whoever will talk to me. And that way I can further, get more interviews, because as I said, the interviews have been a very difficult thing to get. I don't have anyone here to introduce me. I tried my best to get people to get in touch with people, and the folks in the United States that I know, they tried helping me get interviews, but they weren't successful. So it was a long process, and in many ways, this is what ethnography is all about, right? Sometimes you go in cold. That's what I've read. I've never done this before. But sometimes you have to go in cold. No one to introduce you. Maybe that's a good thing as an outsider, right? Which is who I am. Oh yeah. What am I eating today? Yeah, I was having a little dinner, and then I said, "Oh, I have to do this video." I almost forgot. Beautiful piece of bread. Very good. Very crusty. And I got 200 grams of feta. So I'll probably put it in the fridge, and hopefully it will keep nice and cold. Because when you take the key out of the socket, you lose power. So I'll just keep it in there. So the feta, I haven't had feta like this. When you get feta in the US, it's like a brick. It's like a brick, and it crumbles, right? Maybe it's not the feta that the Greeks make, which is, it uses sheep and goat milk together to create feta. And it's a very arduous process of establishing that equilibrium between the two milks, and then you have to put it in brine, right? So in the United States, when you get feta, it's like breaks apart in your hand. It's a little acidic to the taste. I don't have a knife, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to do this with my hands, but I wash my hands. This is a very creamy kind of, you see, it's a very creamy. It doesn't just break apart. And it's very smooth. It's not acidic. It's not that salty either. And it's very mild, which is what I like. India is part of the trip this year, as you probably know. And I know it's going to be all spice. And I would like to ask them, why all the spice? For Greeks, the flavor is it's more about tasting the meat, tasting the ingredients. The seasoning is there, but it's not pronounced. It's not like in your face, Like you've ever had a souvlaki, you know what I'm talking about. I also have some mortadella, which is more Italian, I guess. But I've been really enjoying this cheese. And I think this and tzatziki is like fundamental to the Greek experience, because feta is a survival food. Greeks, I think I mentioned this in one of the videos, the traditional Greek cuisine is heavily vegetarian because meat's seen as a luxury. And so what do you eat? You eat things like spinach, like spanakopita, the spinach pie. This is fundamental. It's not an appetizer to people in the past. It was a main meal because, again, people didn't have a lot of money. And so they needed things like feta, a lot of feta. You milk you milk the sheep, and they don't use cow milk. Sheep and goat milk. And then you make this beautiful cheese in a brine, and you're good to go. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Some people ate this bread and feta every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And some of the older generation cannot have a meal without having some bread and some feta. Again, very tasty. Spanakopita, very tasty, very affordable, and you ate to feel full, right? Same thing in Lebanon. Bread is with every meal because, again, like people didn't have a lot of money, so they ate a lot of bread. And so food is about, it's about eating and tasting and enjoying, and also being proud, but it's also about, it tells a story of how people survived. And I think that's something that I cannot overlook. I really need to write that down because that's really good. Anyway, that's about it. Tomorrow I'm going to draft up my notes and then go try to get another another interview. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm getting good rest now. I think the jet lag's pretty much over. I got advice from a professor, a former professor of mine. He's a friend now. He said, you got to eat well, you got to drink a lot of water, and you got to rest. Because you got to think. You got to make connections. You got to see the patterns before your eyes, right? You can't just be like partying all night. They didn't send me here to party. They sent me here to produce some scholarship. So, and I'm not interested in that. So I'm here to get my rest. I'm here to eat healthy food. And I'm here to produce something. Because food is a measuring rod for politics. It's not what people don't look at it. They don't look at food. They don't even think of it as politics, but it is, and it's being shaped. The way we eat, the way we cook is being shaped by the political economic system. All right, thank you so much.